I was trying to think of how to sum up your status or where you are as this guitar hero, and I came across a great quote, and it said, "I can't think of a greater guitar icon than somebody who has the musical intellect to change what was there before and take music in a different direction." Now that, to me, seems to sum you up completely. And that, by the way, was Jimmy Page.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's hard for me to think that. I mean, somebody like Jimmy or, and Jeff Beck and Jimi Hendrix, those guys really made a change. Because I think these guys had very few manuals to resort to do their thing. Somebody like me had a lot more library books to find to create my own thing. So I really think the credit goes to people like, obviously way long ago, Charlie Christian and Les Paul and Wes Montgomery and all these guys. If we're considering blues rock and rock guitar, I mean, you think about what the small amount of information Jimi Hendrix had and Jeff Beck had to create this whole new thing. And, I think also in the 80s, obviously, or late 70s or 80s, Eddie Van Halen, when he reinvented the way you approach the fretboard. I think those kind of people made more of a monumental change. I mean, I have my own little things that make my signature. But I think I had a lot more manuals to resort to create my own thing. That these pioneers really of blues rock really deserve a lot of the credit, I think.
The guitar in particular is an instrument that can intimidate. I remember a great quote from Lemmy from Motorhead saying, he was asked, "What did you learn from Jimi Hendrix?" And he said, "Yeah, well, I learned give up the guitar and actually rely on bass." But the opposite true for you then, growing up. It was a source of great inspiration. The first guy that I think I'm right in saying that had a big effect on you was Floyd Edwards before it moved on to all of the Beatles, the Stones.
Well, Noki Edwards.
Yeah.
I think maybe. Was his name Floyd?
Yeah, his name was Floyd Noki Edwards.
Oh my gosh. Well, you just taught me something I never knew. Floyd Noki Edwards. Well, absolutely. Because he was a great guitar player and he, great sound, and when I grew up in that period, guitar was pretty much, wow, listen to that. That's a sound you've never heard before, and nowadays you've heard, it's like if you went to the grocery store and somebody, oh, look, we went around across the world and got this kiwi fruit. Oh my God, a kiwi fruit, and nowadays, the kiwi fruit, we can get them anywhere. I mean, it really is a little bit like that, you know what I mean? It's like that was the burgeoning beginning, and you heard Noki play, and then when I heard the Yardbirds, and I was like, wow, some of that guitar playing, it doesn't even, I was like, wow, it sounds like a saxophone or a violin, and that really, and it's just a great sound, it lured you in sonically so that you were interested in hearing what somebody had to talk about. But initially, it was the sound that oh, wow. And then that gave you the desire to be attentive to what they had to say.
And that obviously led to Hendrix, Cream, and the Yardbirds. What was interesting about your approach, even in those very early days, was the fact that your ear was open to everything. James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, Simon and Garfunkel, Stevie Wonder was a big influence. So you have all of these big mixture of sounds rather than just the one style.
I think they all, if you look behind the curtain on all of them, it's just good music, and it's deep technique, but the technique is subordinated to create good music. It's the fuel, but it's not the focus as much.
You listen to a varied selection of music because I think you said at the time if I only listen to guitar players, then you'll only ever emulate a guitar player. That is why I was open to everything.
Yeah, and I started on piano, so my first love was all sorts of piano music. And my dad loved music, and when I was really like 3, 4, 5 years old, I would see how he would just laugh and cry over. He'd be transported by music, and I thought, wow, what is this music thing that's so magnetic and so uplifting to my father? And so and when I 3 years old hearing Elvis Presley, and Scotty Moore, and you start at that was your 0 point of starting. Oh yeah, guitar's supposed to sound to be played like that, and so it's a good alphabet to be introduced to music in.
You had 6 years, didn't you, for playing the piano from the age of 5 before you got that guitar. And you've said on many occasions, you said, listen, every guitar player should learn how to play the piano.
I kind of feel every musician should. And it doesn't mean they have to become a great pianist, but I don't think they have to, but I think it's an opportunity, because when you sit at the piano, if you were building a house and you had a chance to go up get a balcony view and look, oh, here's the property, here's where I want to, you know what I mean? You can, like send a thing up to take pictures of it, so you could, you know what I mean? And with the piano, you have the ability to get a balcony view of, wow, the bass and the rhythm and the lead, and you can kind of, and it doesn't quarantine you into the limitations of the instruments much. I think a piano's laid out one of the most unlimited instruments there is. You can play chords, you can play 3 parts at once, and you certainly can do that on guitar, like people like Doyle Dykes and Tommy Emmanuel and Richard Smith, those guys can play 3 parts at once on the guitar. But I think that the piano really is a great writing instrument and a great balcony view tool to kind of see what you're trying to do. Plus, it doesn't, like if you just only myopically look at your own instrument like you were mentioning, you're going to be more. You're not going to keep an open mind. You won't be introduced to such an open mind that you would if you look at it from a different, dilated viewpoint.
This is actually then, when you think about it, your 60th year playing guitar. It's 1965. I mean, apart from the fact that whatever you do in your life, you're obviously doing well, because you don't look anything near some 70 years of age, I've got to say.
Wow.
What do you remember about that day that you picked up the Fender Music Master?
Oh man,
that was the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah. And before I did that, I was like looking at all the catalogs. Of course, I wanted the Jaguar. That was the swinging surf instrument. You see these guys on surfboards, Jaguars. Oh, that's it. I mean, I got to get a Jaguar. But I started on a Music Master. And that was cool. I mean, yeah, just the paint and the case and the way they smelled and the whole persona and advertisements that Fender did. It was like a whole nother generation of swinging.
Was it
60s.
A Christmas present or a birthday present, or just because you were a talented musician?
Well, I just hounded my dad to go to J.R. Reed Music Company downtown Austin and say, come on, I want to buy a guitar. And so he finally relented.
And the first song that you learned to play, Cheating Heart by Hank Williams?
Yeah, that was before I got the guitar. My dad took me over. Well, no, my dad took me over to a friend's house. It was the first time I ever got to even pick up a guitar. And he had a Stella acoustic, and he was teaching me Your Cheating Heart.
Brilliant. Now,
Yeah.
like so many kids, certainly it seems prodigies of the time. You used to sneak out the house when nobody was looking, when you were in your teenage years, down to the Jade Room on a Tuesday night to sit in there and just sort of stay out of the way of everybody to just watch. I mean, for somebody that young, because you were quite young, getting in there and sitting down and seeing all this live music for the first time. I mean, how did it make you feel?
Oh, it was great. There was a guitar player named Johnny Richardson, and he was great. I owe a lot to him on learning to play guitar. I don't think if he knew it, but I'd go down there Tuesday night and hear him play in this band, and I'd just marvel at his playing. He's one of the best players in Austin, and yeah, it was just, I was 14 years old, but the club would let me in if I'd just stay in the back, and just like. Listen. They didn't want me up at the bar or dancing with all the older women, I guess. I don't know. But,
I love it.
Yeah.
When you think about it, the young talents and those prodigies, not many of them got to do what you did. Literally within 12 months, you're already in a band, Mariani, it was at the time, and you end up jamming and hanging out with Johnny Winter. I mean, most kids would have been so starstruck they wouldn't have been able to actually speak or pick an instrument up, but you're up there jamming together. And
well, I got to, that was a big highlight for me, getting to meet him. Yeah, it was great. And I'd seen him play live before. He was amazing. When he first came out, he was so raw blues, too. He played just a guitar straight in the amp and sang, and it was just very, very different for the time,
Yeah. And what was it he said about you? He said, when I heard him play when he was 16 years of age, this is him talking about you, I wished I'd been able to play like that when I was his age. The compliments and the superlatives being offered up for you right from an early age. I mean, yeah, some people it would have maybe affected, or it would have added increased pressure, but it didn't seem to do that to you. But for somebody of his stature to say that must have made you feel like you're walking on air.
It was a great night for me when I got to meet him, and he played my guitar and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Yeah.
Now, when you think about it, you're one of the hottest talents around. You're being written about. Everybody had heard about you. Everybody who knows you are. This is the era without social media as well. So, you're having to do extraordinary things to get into magazines, on radio and television and whatever. Did the fact that you were likened by so many people to like a young Jeff Beck or a young Johnny Wood, did that intimidate you at all? Or did you just feed off of it?
Well, I think you go through a period where you kind of live in your own legacy. And like, I'm this, I'm that. And then all of a sudden, if you're lucky, you get that whole thing cracked in half and busted, and realize, wow, what the heck was I thinking? It's like, it's okay to be confident. You got to believe in yourself. You got to love yourself. That's kind of that's the compass by which we perform in life and love others and do everything. So that goes without saying. But I think if you keep your eyes open a little bit, and you get that bubble gets burst pretty easily. You don't have to look very far to hear great musicians that have explored certain musical terrain that you can only dream of. And so you have a choice. I think you hit a fork in the road as you're growing and learning, and you go, well, you can just retreat to your closet and believe whatever you want, if that's what you want to do in this potential illusion. And you can think this or think that, but if you really keep your eyes open, you go, my gosh, you don't have to look far or listen, to hear just incredible, stuff that people have done, and if I come up, oh, look at this thing I'm doing, this is cool, nobody else done this, and then all of a sudden I'll hear somebody, oh, not only have they done it, I did it 30 years ago, I did it twice as good as I did. And that's the reality. So it's just whether you want to live in reality or live in your comfortable bubble, and that's pretty limiting, and at some point if you can break that, you remain a student, you remain childlike, not childish, but childlike and a student. And I think it's essential. No matter what job you do, no matter what you do, it's really, it's the best place to to be, because you're open your eyes and you're seeing what reality really is instead of having to go and retreat into this thing, you know.
You worked as a session player with some real A-list talent: Cat Stevens, Carole King, Christopher Cross. How did that enhance your musical education at the time, or were you viewing it as just something that you had to do?
No, it was great. I mean, I've always loved, you know, like you were mentioning, Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan and Simon and Garfunkel, Bert Jantz, and the list. It was, and Stevie Wonder, of course, as songwriters. And I mean, there's such a list of people that just write great songs. And so working with Chris or Carol or Kat I was able to be a observer to great songwriters, and that was huge for me. I mean, I remember sitting around once when Carol started just playing piano by herself, and she went through all these tunes, and they were all like #1 hits. I was like, wow, did you write that? And she wrote like 50 #1 hits that a lot of them she never did herself. She wrote them for other people. The Goffin and King, you know, in the Brill Building.
Yeah.
And she'd do this song, and I go, oh, wow, I remember that. And every time, just over and over, it's like she wrote them all. I was like, I didn't know you wrote that, you know. It's amazing, you know. But, I mean, yeah, so it was great to be a fly on the wall and see people like that. And it's fun I enjoy backing other people up. I actually enjoy it. I think it's not a matter of wanting to be center stage, but you want to feel like you're being utilized, you know.
Yeah, I get it.
So at one point I felt like, well, I guess I'll just go study guitar and do my own thing, you know, and try to learn more, you know.
So tell me, you read a lot. I mean, you've had a career that's been going back six decades or so. And sometimes you see parts of the story and you think, well, I wonder if that's true. So did it really happen that in 84 it's Prince that sees you on that TV program, Austin City Limits, and he's the one that recommends you to Warner Brothers? Is that folklore, or did that actually happen?
It supposedly happened, but I don't know. I never talked to Prince. I never met him. But that's what I was told. And you know, I kind of don't take it as... I take it more as folklore because I don't know. But I do know that I had been talking to Warner Brothers for 3 years, and it was like nothing was going on. And then the very next day, they're like, okay, we're going to... You know, it's like, wow, somebody flipped the switch. I don't know why. You know, all of a sudden, you know, it's like... They went from, well, we don't know what to do with you two. Oh, we want to work with, you know, so I don't know. It could be. I mean, that's what I was told.
Well, so Touch Papers lit then. You signed on to Warner Brothers. You seemed like you were picking up Grammy nominations literally on an annual basis. I think Zap was the first one. The music press are all over you. Again, at this time, with that spotlight on you, was there pressure for you to produce? Because, I mean, the debut album got incredible reviews.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, the first album we did relatively quick, and the second album was kind of a pressure because I had decided, man, I want to really make a definitive guitar record, so I really pushed myself hard to do that one.
Cliffs of Dover. Where did the inspiration for the title of that come from?
Oh, my friend Vince Mariani that I played in a band with. I played him the song, and he said, oh, you know how to call that the Cliffs of Dover? And I said, really? Okay, I'll call it that.
And that was it, because you are aware of the, you know, over the white Cliffs of Dover.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And famous songs written by artists in the 1940s.
Oh, was there? Okay, did they call it the Cliffs of Dover?
Yeah.
Does it call...
You've put me around the spot now. I can't remember, but the artist, it was somebody called Vera Lynn, who is no longer with us, and it was songs for the troops. You know, basically. Did you, when you finished that, were you aware yourself that you'd written something special, something that was different to anything else you'd written?
Well, I thought it was one of the songs that people liked when I played live, but I actually wrote it years before I recorded it. We almost recorded it for my first record, but we ended up going, no, it doesn't really fit on the record. So I wrote it a few years before I put it on iView Musicom. No, it was just an idea that came to me in 5 minutes, and I just thought, oh, whatever, this is kind of cool. But I do remember playing it for my mom, and she went, now that's a good song. And I went, really? Oh, okay. So I guess she knew better than me, because I was like, no, what about this one? What about that one? No, that one's a good song. Okay.
It is your Smoke on the Water. It is your Stairway to Heaven. It is, your Paranoid. You cannot do a show without playing it, can you?
I tried. I did a tour where I didn't play it for a while. It didn't go very well. So yeah, I play it every night. I play it when I'm on the road. Yeah.
So that brings us to G3. How did your involvement in the original lineup back in '96 come about? Because it was a very different concept at the time. Joe said in the past, having the original idea and getting people to buy into it is not easy. You have to convince a few people. So how did you become involved? When was it first put to you that this was?
Well, Joe called. Yeah, Joe called and I had done a couple of tours with Joe, warming up for him on U.S. tours. So I knew Joe a little bit, and he called and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing with, 3 guitar players, Steve and you and me, and we'll do this combined thing. And I thought, well, that's cool. So yeah, we did like 3 tours together, the original lineup, I think. I made a record.
But I remember him saying part of the reason why he put it together was when he first started out in the music business, he thought that it would be fabulous. You do a record, then you go out on tour, and then at the end of the night you'd all sit down and swap stories and talk guitar. And he said the reality was completely different. You'd do a record, you go out on tour, you'd finish the gig, you'd sit in your hotel room on your own, you'd be talking to nobody, and it was a very solitary existence. Yeah. And so this was part of it, to get together with friends, so there could be a camaraderie that brewed between the 3 of you.
I think so. I think you're right. And people like seeing that. They like seeing that language and that communication between people. When you go see, when you used to, I remember seeing like Pat Metheny with Lyle Mays, playing counterpoint piano is so beautiful. It was doing this thing, or Wayne Shorter with Joe Zawinul. There's that thing that happens when you get more than one person focused on, and I think it's really admirable of Joe. Joe has consistently put himself with other guitar players that he's very secure in his playing. I mean, he's a great player. He has every reason to be secure, but a lot of players maybe would not want to just jump in and have all these other guys that are really good, like that he's done over all the years, but he's cool with that, and I think that and people appreciate that. I think they feel that and like hearing that.
And so many of these supergroups, if you want to call it a supergroup, will be put together. They will, if you're lucky, they'll last a tour and an album, and then it will be musical differences. It will be they fall out and whatever. But it has never happened with GT in any guise. And again, so on this particular version, the original, and then when you came back, and then when you've done it again, you seem to feed off each other's genius.
Well, we're inspired by each other, and it's nice to listen to those guys and hear stuff that oh wow, that's cool. Maybe I can learn that. It's nice just to be in that atmosphere where you're being inspired and stimulated and that kind of thing.
And so, as I said, you've been together before 2-3 times. Then was this just a question of you picking up the phone, answering, say, yeah, oh, I'll be there, and you walking into the room, plugging in, and you pick up where you left off? Is it that easy to do when the 3 of you get together?
Not quite. I mean, Joe said he wanted to do a couple of dates. We were going to do a few dates. I think he wanted to film, and his son Zizi, who's a cinematographer in Los Angeles, does really well with it. They wanted to make a documentary of of the original G3.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we were going to do a couple of dates, and then the couple of dates turned into a 3-week tour. And that's how that happened. But we did get together. We decided what things we'd do for the encore, and we all tried to design our set around what, people might like for that would come to that show.
You said having the desire to push the boundaries of what can be achieved is still there. I mean, listening to all 27 tracks on this album, there is no going through the motions here with any of you. It is literally, each track is attacked literally as if it's the last time you're ever going to play a track. I mean, it is very, very intense. It's not something you're going to be putting on and letting it go in the background. It requires you to sit and listen in full with no disturbances.
You don't think like that record for like a really chilled romantic candlelight dinner?
No, yeah. I don't think so.
It's kind of it's a celebration of guitar and rock guitar, and just come out and have fun and play with friends that inspire you.
They've done a brilliant job of packaging this now in an era of downloads and streaming. To actually get hold of these things that are a work of art. I mean, this obviously comes in the CD collection. Then you have the gatefold sleeve, which is always fabulous to open. And then you have the 4 LP set in the different colored vinyls, with each of you having a different color. Did you actually pick your color?
No, I think the art designer picked it.
And also, there's a great book as well with some amazing photography in it. So, all in all, when it's been put together, there's obviously been time, effort, craft, and consideration about the whole product.
It was. There was some really wonderful people involved that was really trying to make it as first class as they could on all different areas.
And just go back to that '96 debut, because there's a really great piece in here. And Joe said that there was a 4-year-old kid called ZZ back in '96 who was on his first tour with his mum and dad, and then this time around he actually takes to the stage and plays with him for the first time ever.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great moment.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
And so, where does that leave you? Do you see you guys doing this again? Is this something that, you're expecting the phone to ring, but you never know when, and it might be in 2 years' time or?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that Joe will continue doing the G3 in some iteration, because that's something he's designed and he enjoys doing, in all sorts of different variations. So I'm not sure how it'll turn out and when it'll turn out again. Yeah.
And what about you? I mean, again, you are very quotable. There are lots of quotes of yours out there. I'm trying to find somewhere or something different, or a reinvention of the guitar. Is that still you every day when you wake up, you get out of bed, you come into the studio and you think, right, today's the day?
Well, yeah, I keep trying to do that, and I think the best thing that can happen to you is you can become aware. You don't just go into automatic pilot or just go through the motion. You go, oh, I'm aware that I'm replaying everything I normally play, because you can't start entertaining or pushing the envelope or trying to come up with something new or change your vocabulary without being aware. If you're never aware of it, then it's never even an issue. So I think the first step is becoming aware, conscious that, I'm just playing the same licks. And then you think, wow, what if I tried something different? Which is the same thing we do when we first started any craft we learn. When we first start, we have to garner the new alphabet. So who's to say that at some point, well, I'm going to quit collating an alphabet. I'll just keep using the same alphabet for 60 years. It's like, well, we made that decision. I'm not fixed to that decision. I go, wow, maybe I could treat it like I did when I was first learning, and keep learning, and keep challenging myself. And plus, it invigorates yourself. Otherwise, the liquid can turn into solid, and you freeze yourself.
Is it really the case when you say, if I take a break from the music for one day, then I notice it. If I take a break for 2 days, the audience notice it. Is that just one of those throwaway comments?
No, really that's really true. I think it's absolutely true. The only thing about sometimes you can take a week off and it's really good, though, because it helps you have another perspective. You're not so attached to your old perspective. So there is a good value to it. But physically, yeah, I mean, it's like for me, I do acoustic records and touring sometimes too, and it's a totally different technique. And so if I don't play acoustic for a while because I'm playing electric, I'll pick up the acoustic, and I'm just like, it's terrible. It's like I have to relearn how to play because it's a whole different thing, like finger picking and stuff. But yeah, definitely.
Is perfection attainable in your craft? Do you believe that it is possible to create something that is perfect?
Well, I guess it depends on what you no, I don't think so. I think what you define as perfect, and that perfect can really change, I mean, perfect isn't about the mechanics of it. It's about whether it delivers that emotion, Like I think about certain Stevie Wonder songs, they're so perfect, They're absolutely so perfect because I get this fantastic feeling from it, and it's just so full of verve and emotion from him, that, God, every single note that isn't perfect is perfect, But you don't want to change it.
From one of your, the NFL, I don't know, are you an NFL fan?
A little bit, not a whole lot, but a little bit.
There was a coach. There was a guy called Vince Lombardi who was very, very, very famous.
Sure.
And he was the one that came out with perfection is simply not attainable. But if you chase perfection, you'll catch excellence.
Yeah, and really, if people, I mean, it's a matter of where you use it. I mean, sometimes it gets a bad rap, somebody's going for perfection. Well, it depends on where you use perfection. I mean, nobody could tell me that, I'm sure Ishtok Perlman had his perfecting moments when he was rehearsing, or Ling Ling the pianist, or John McLaughlin on guitar. I mean, they're being perfectionistic just to get that good. It's just maybe they don't utilize it on stage. They let go and they play music on stage. But when they're rehearsing, when they're learning their homework, when they're running through those pieces, their benchmark's pretty high. I mean, how could it not be? You listen to the results. So I think that perfectionistic streak is a great tool, but you got to use it in the right place, in the right lineage of the evolution of what you do.
So just before we conclude, what is there left that you would like to achieve as a guitar player, or even a human being? Is there something that you would like to do?
Well, to become more awake, and realize, just all, everything we see and hear might not be as pervading as what we don't see and hear, and that's all that consciousness and all that inner dialogue and stuff. But I think that reflects in whatever that will reflect in what you do. But what I think, right now I'm working on a record where I just plug a guitar basically straight into an amp. I'm just like, stop the presses. Let's just go back to the simple. And I think for me right now, if for no one else, it's very timely in this day and age with option anxiety. I mean, it's overkill. There's just so much. I mean, that's the 5 million amps, 5 million pedals, 5 million in the computer. And I'm like, I'm going to just go back to just brass tacks, just, and so, and my hopes in doing that is to discover some of the stuff that I hear in older music, even before the 60s. You listen to the 30s and 40s and 50s and all these guys, and you might very quickly go, well, that's old music and we got new music. But then if you look a little deeper, you realize that old music, they've already done what we do now. And it's just the tonality of the instruments they use. In other words, if I took Benny Goodman's horn lines and I put them on guitar, all of a sudden people, Eric's come up with this new thing. It's like you've never heard, you know what I mean? It's already been done, but it's just a matter in the way it's been done and the tonality how it's been done. So, I mean, if you start listening to that stuff, you just discover this amazing heart and this amazing emotion and musicality. And there's a whole ocean there, I think, that we can continue, as well as modern music too. There's a lot of great stuff. You can, I think, just staying open, staying awake, and keep learning, and try, because you want to try to make, whatever you do, you want to try to do a more contributive, heartfelt job of it, and that's really that's what I want to try to do more of.
And when you put the guitar down, is it still just water skiing and ping pong? That's it?
Oh, yeah, really. I don't get to play ping pong much anymore. Water skiing's only in the summer, but I like to go to the lake and stuff, or hike. I like to hike around and stuff. But somebody asked me the other day, said, "What do you do when you're not playing guitar?" And I say, well, usually I'll just sit around and play guitar. That's what I do when I'm not playing guitar. I'll be playing guitar.